Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
All right, 25 minutes before 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. Nice looking day, huh?
Gorgeous.
So we live in an interesting area. We have a university in our listening audience. We have beaches just a hop and a skip away. We have lots of young people coming down here. And guess what? We have a lot of retirees who are also dating. Believe it or not.
We do.
Believe it or not.
The villages.
Right. So dating is not necessarily reserved for the young. However, you would think that once you're no longer young, but maybe young at heart, maybe dating is maybe still going through some of the same the same awkward moments and all that happens in any point of our life, right? Dr. Nancy Lee is on the phone. She's a clinical psychologist and an award-winning author. Her book is called Don't Sleep With Him Yet, a badass guide to dating in 10 empowering steps. So this is not just for you college kids, it's for some of the older folks out there as well, and everybody in between. Dr. Nancy Lee, it's an honor to have you on our show. Good morning.
Good morning. I am so delighted to be here, and it's an honor for me to be speaking with you, Larry. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Beverly Hills, California, so we're across the country.
There you go. Well, thank you for getting up early to be with us.
Oh, absolutely. And by the way, I love what you said about dating being across the board. Everybody looks for intimacy and passion. It's not just about young people. It's about people across all age ranges, and not just women, by the way. Men want romance, passion, commitment, intimacy also.
So the title, Don't Sleep With Him Yet, could it be Don't Sleep With Her Yet? Don't the guys need this message too?
That's my next book. Actually, that's really funny that you said that, because so the book is technically for women and very empowering, but the men who've read it, and again, it hasn't come out yet, but this is men who've endorsed it, and some of my patients who've read bits and pieces, they respond really well to it also. It resonates with them. So yes, it's technically for women, but again, I was actually surprised that the message or messages in the in the book really resonate with the men as well.
Well, you know what it is? Like in this day when we have apps that you what do you call it? Swipe left or swipe right?
Please swipe right, but yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I've always been amazed at that because I'm beyond the age of using that. First of all, not that men my age wouldn't use it, but for me personally, I don't need it. But my thought was, wait a minute, you mean women are just wanting to hook up? I thought that hooking up thing was a guy thing.
So it's mostly, okay, this is, and that we're going like right to the punch. So there's something that I discuss called hookup fatigue. So yes, I mean, women enjoy sex. That said, our brains are wired differently. So women, if they're hooking up, they tend to be, and by hookup, let's get our terms. Hookup means something different to everybody. So I'm just going to give the general definition. It's any intense sexual encounter, physical sexual encounter. So it's anything from French kissing on. So if women are hooking up with a guy, they tend to become attached. The next day, they're looking at their phone for a text. It may or may not come. The men, by and large, sometimes hook up with a woman they're really into, and it becomes a relationship. But often, men hook up. They are not the ones checking their phone the next day, believe me. So, yeah, that's actually it's a very big issue these days. There's also something I discuss in the book called hookup fatigue, where women have just really become tired of that whole culture. They don't want to just hook up with no strings attached. They really do want romance, passion, commitment, into emotional intimacy. And men too, by the way.
But doesn't the man who wants a real relationship, who doesn't, he's got a couple things going on. He knows society is telling the woman he's dating that he's probably going to want it right now, right today after dinner. But in his heart, he doesn't. He's saying to himself, no, I want her to get to know me. But at the same time, he's also realizing that she probably thinks he wants it right now. And so there's this dynamic that's not communicated. Is that part of the problem, that we're not talking exactly about that?
Huge. And I love the fact that you understand men. So there's so
I've
many
been one
men
for a while.
Exactly. That helps. There's so many men who come to me for counseling because they feel this enormous pressure. Like, wait, I have to see, I'm dating, and if I don't sleep with this woman right away, she's going to feel like I'm somehow less than and inferior, but I really would prefer to get to know her better. The irony is nobody needs my permission as a psychologist or as an author or anything else, but people seem to be so relieved when I look at a client, patient, I use the terms interchangeably, and say, you know what? You don't have to sleep with this woman. She's probably going to be relieved if you don't push her for sex, like on the second date. And that seems to take, just that alone, seems to take an enormous burden off men.
Oh, yeah. I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. How about the people that feel, maybe they want to change their partner, but they're afraid if they try to do that, they're going to be alone. So should they stay with their partner even though the spark isn't there anymore?
Another great question. So there's so many reasons for somebody staying or leaving. I mean, if it's just about the spark not being there, there's infinite ways to get that spark back, and that's chapter 10 in my book, Best Sex Ever. But so that would be one thing they can really work on, getting that chemistry back. But if somebody isn't, there's so many different reasons for somebody not being happy in a relationship. At one end, there might be, actually I saw a woman like this a couple of months ago, there might be somebody who's with a great guy, he treats her really well, but she feels, wait, he's spending too much time with his buddies, I'm feeling neglected. That's a pretty straightforward issue that the two can work on together with communication, with expressing their needs. At the other end of the spectrum, you may have, and unfortunately I see this all the time, but women come in and they feel they're being emotionally manipulated. Their partners are making them feel bad about themselves. They're being lied to.
Oh my gosh!
Their partners are cheating. Absolutely, dump that dude.
Absolutely,
much better to be on your own.
Do you know how I approach?
There's lots of different reasons. Sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I approach this conversation as if you were my sister, or as if any woman is my sister. But if I approached it as if you were somebody I was dating, I would try to look at you to realize that you're looking at me as, possibly a predator of some sort, and I gotta let you know that that's not going to be me. But as somebody talking to other people, you know what I mean? I have to do it as brother to sister, or even father to daughter in some cases. In other words,
you know what?
Protective.
Yeah, that's a really good way to look at it. And hey, I'm off the market, but so many. I'm married actually, but so many of the men that I have a lot of guy friends and male patients, and they do speak to me in some ways. I'm a professional, obviously, but in some ways it really is like a sister, because they're sharing they're just sharing what they really fthey Whereas, with girls that maybe they've just begun, women, they've just begun dating, there's this facade that they are trying to keep up, when ironically that works against them.
And then there's that culture on the different campuses. I mean, gosh, you've got girls that have experienced rape, and now they don't know who to trust on that kind of dating scene. And if they tell the fella on their first or second date about the incident, then the fella's gonna maybe think twice also? I mean, how should he handle himself without scaring her off if he wants another date?
That's another great question. So the culture on campuses can be really confusing. So, for example, to answer your question, how does the guy handle himself? With respect, really listening to her. There's no problem with asking, hey, is this okay? Again, there's situations where you get cues with body language. It's not all about, hey, can I kiss you? But when two people are together, and if the guy is really respectful and listening to not only to what she says, but there's no-go body language as well, pay attention to it. What happens a lot on college campuses is, unfortunately, just because, well, this part isn't unfortunate, but hookup culture is acceptable, but the problem comes in where you have certain guys who feel, well, because hookup culture is acceptable, I'm going to push for a hookup with my dorm buddy, my lab partner, my friend, and she clearly doesn't want it. That's where the problem comes in, and that's when you get to that's really when you get to some of the more like assault issues. Also, lots of gray area, murky sex. That doesn't just apply to college, but you see that a lot on college. Young women tend to be still in that people-pleasing mode and conformity and something I call polite, quote-unquote, polite sex, which just leads to resentment. So, yeah, it's for all of you college students out there, you're not alone with this.
So when a woman expresses this thought, I have a thought I want to tell you about. So the thought that she would express is, all men are the same. All men only want one thing. So my reply to that is, you're probably right. All men want that one thing that you're referring to, but all men are not the same, and you only need one man anyway. I mean, ultimately, I mean, that's the way I look at it the same way when men complain about women in general, yes. A generalized statement. Well, you're only really looking for the one, right? So how do you narrow it down? I always say, well, if you're finding the bad men always in the bar, then stop getting men from a bar.
So true. So many women. So first of all, men are all across the board. Yes, excuse my crudeness, but some men are just looking to get laid. But there are so many men out there. I think that surveys show it's like 67% of American men want a relationship. They want that amazing girlfriend. So, yeah, I mean, look, I have known people that have met their fiancés in bars, so I'm not saying that bars are uniformly the wrong place. Right. Yeah, they're not uniformly the wrong place to look, but that said, expand your horizons. Try to just increase your network, your whole network. Do things that you feel, do activities and do things that you feel really good about. If you want to take, if this is information basically for people out of college, because people in college already have a huge pool of men to meet. But for people who are past college, take some continuing education classes. Do an activity that maybe you've never tried, like salsa or line dancing, where you see the same people over and over, and the vibe is, and find a place where the vibe is really great. Another thing that people don't realize, or especially women, is that when a guy is willing to be set up, he's usually looking for a relationship. So definitely ask your friends, coworkers, acquaintances if they know anyone who'd like to meet somebody terrific like you. I mean, look at the Prince and Meghan Markle. They met on a blind date.
Oh, I didn't know that. Did they? Did you know that?
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Yeah, they met through friends. Yep, and he was, again, had a friend who's like a sister to him, and was saying that he really wanted to meet somebody to settle down with. So hence the rest is history.
Wow,
really history.
Wow, I never knew that.
Our thoughts of performance going through each sex's mind when they do say yes to going to bed with each other?
Can you repeat the question? There was a little bit of static on my end.
Oh, our thoughts of performance on either partner's mind when they do go to bed with each other for the first time.
A great question. And okay, so if they're sleeping with each other right at the beginning of a relationship, so before they've really gotten to know each other and there's emotional intimacy, it's almost all about performance issues, because that's what they have. They don't know each other emotionally well. This is what I see as a therapist. If they're sleeping together later, if they're waiting, hence remember the title of my book, Don't Sleep with Him Yet.
Yes.
So if two people are waiting longer, the love making, the sleeping together feels more like an affirmation of the relationship. The performance issues tend to evaporate. They're still there, but they really recede into the background, and it becomes more, you hear more, I am so thrilled. It makes my day when a patient comes in and is like, whether it's a man or woman, hey, guess what? We did it, and oh my God, it was fantastic. Rather than at the beginning, I slept with this guy, God, I don't think I should have, or from the men, like I don't know what she thinks of me, I don't want to be crude on the air, but you can imagine the rest of the conversation.
And I think a guy sometimes wonders if he's waiting, if he's holding off too long. I think that happens too. Let's say you're on the 5th date and you haven't really made that move yet. A guy might think, oh my gosh, I don't want to do something if it's going to be too soon, but I don't know if 5 dates is soon, or you could go back to the old, what you were taught as a kid, wait till you get married. You could do that we had John Tesh on the air.
Yeah.
And he told us that him and, what's his lady's name?
Connie Sellecott.
He said they waited till they were married.
Yeah, I mean, every couple has a different comfort level for when physical intimacy enters in. But yes, guys definitely have this, wow, I don't want her to think poorly of me, or they have this sort of macho image. I'm not saying this is rightfully, but they have this in their head. What I tell men is just ask. If you're confused or you're not sure about what a woman wants or the pacing of sex, communicate. Same with women. Don't feel like you have to hide what you're really feeling if this isn't right for you, if it is right for you. I mean, that's the beauty, I think, of one of the things I discuss in the book is the beauty of the Me Too movement is that there's a trickle-down effect. So women are getting their voice as to what they want in a consensual relationship. So I think that's something that's really, really powerful.
You also bring out appearance.
Yes, and I'm one of the only psychologists who's brave enough to do that. Remember, it's a dating book for women, so your appearance is not the end all, but it is a factor in terms of dating. What I like to tell people, and again, this is in my book as well, it's really badass to own your appearance, blemishes and all, but accepting things doesn't mean you stop trying.
Oh, I love that.
So what about the teasing part of a relationship? Let's say you're talking to a young woman and you say, don't sleep with him yet. And she says to you, why? Why? And you have to answer her. What would be your answer to that question? And going back to the teasing, what I was trying to get at is, as a guy, sometimes you're with a girl and you think, wow, she really wants it. Look what she's kind of giving me those signals. And then you get excited and the next thing you know, the physical stuff starts taking over and, it snowballs a little bit. Do you warn the women not to go down that road or whatever?
No. And that's a great question, and it's coming up all the time these days. So flirting is really interesting. So flirting releases dopamine in our brain, which is a neurotransmitter that makes us feel really, really good, okay? But flirting is the suggestion of intimacy. It's not the promise of intimacy. So unfortunately, something that women do hear, which becomes it can very easily cross a line into intimidation. Is, hey, you were flirting with me all night. What do you mean you don't want it? But remember, flirting with somebody is not a promise of sex.
Right.
It's a suggestion of sex. And look, flirting, when it's welcome and it's pleasurable and the people are into each other, it can feel absolutely amazing. And by the way, kissing somebody is not the same as sleeping with them. I can be way more graphic, but I don't want to on the air. So yeah, flirting with somebody and then a kiss at the end of the evening can be magical.
How about the age between both partners?
Yeah, you mean the age difference?
Yes.
Or
like, should a woman be older than a man? Or, I mean, is there like a cutoff age, of the difference in years between the two?
It really depends on the relationship. One thing that I found just by experience in the office, out of the office, I'm interested in couples, and I talk to a lot of couples. It seems that if the age difference is such that, for example, the woman, and this is more typical, so this is why I'm saying it, if the woman wasn't even born when the guy was in college, there's just not going to be a common frame of reference.
Yeah.
But you could. I've seen couples with a 10, 13 year age difference. Typically, this is with couples more in their like after the age of 40. So say somebody's 45 and the other person is 60, and you don't notice there's really like no problem if both people are mature and are, I hate to quote the Bachelorette, but are in it for the right reason.
All right, the book hasn't even been released. It says here the release date is June 4th, but I did find it on Amazon. It is called Don't Sleep With Him Yet. It's written by Dr. Nancy Lee, our guest. And I wanted to ask you something. Do you think this is going to be a book that will be purchased by the parents who want to give it to their daughters, or by the daughters?
That's really funny that you said that, because I'm doing a signing at a Barnes & Noble at a local bookstore here, and one of the things that I was on the announcement to my patients and my friends and my acquaintances, at the very bottom, I put, P.S., this book would make a great gift for a high school graduate and her mother. And you didn't see and by the way, I did not send you an announcement. You didn't see the announcement. So across, really, I say anybody 18 and up. It goes boomers, millennials, Gen Xers, Gen Z. It's pretty much across the board.
Yeah, that is exactly. I mean, that is the message. Again, talking to. If I put myself back in my early 20s. Then and I listen to myself saying what I'm about to say, I might argue with myself. But at this point, looking at that age group, and I feel like that is the best advice. Don't sleep with them yet. Give it some time. But when I was 20-something, I was like, oh, come on. That's why. I would say why.
You wanted to get laid.
Yeah.
But see, and Robin, did you and your girlfriend say, oh, I want to go to this party and get laid? No. We wanted to go to a party, meet a cute guy, and have him be our boyfriend. That hasn't changed that much, even today. But there's, look, sometimes women don't want a cosmic connection. That said, when two people sleep with each other immediately, it destroys that eroticism, the buildup of eroticism.
Oh, I agree.
In the relationship. And men figure that out when they're a little bit older.
And your book also eradicates self-doubt, because I think that's the most thing that a person does to sabotage their own self with the doubt.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. I have a whole, I devote, my second chapter is all about that. Yes, it's women, and by the way, I'm not sure why, but women tend to doubt themselves way more than men. Men tend to be more black and white, yes, no. Women doubt. We don't trust our intuition. We doubt ourselves. We overanalyze our decisions. Women really self-doubt themselves, and it becomes a real problem.
So is there anything you can say to steer a woman away from being attracted to the bad boy when the good guy, who's a little dorky, is going to be the best thing she ever had in her life?
Yeah.
That was me, by the way.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, Steve, there you go. Just like you said that. Give the awkward guy, the guy that's nervous around you, the guy that treats you really well, the guy that's not that cool. Please give him a chance.
Thank you so much for that.
Okay,
my 20-year-old self thanks you, Doctor. Thank you for being on the show with us. Don't Sleep with Him Yet is the book. Do you have a website?
It's not up yet. It'll be up in about 3 or 4 weeks. But and it's going to be it's just going to be don'tsleepwithhimyet.com. But for now, go to Amazon if you're interested in buying the book.
And it is there. Thank you, Doctor.
And one other thing, there is a Facebook page up already, and that's called Don't Sleep with Him Yet /the book.
Oh, okay,
Nice.
Very good. You made this a fun interview. Thank you so much, Doctor.
Okay, thanks for having me. Have a great day.
You're welcome. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Here is your 1-minute news brief. Prosecutors will ask Judge Elizabeth